Welcome everyone to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart. Today, great podcast for you. Today, we're going to do a little bit of exposure in the supplementation world. So listen, here we are beginning of 2025, and to me, this is going to be the year of exposure across the board. We're already seeing the impact of just exposing what's going on in the food industry. When I say food industry, this is really going to mean that we're gonna see some exposure this year to the likes we've never seen before. To me, this is super, super exciting, and it's going to bring its own challenges. So I'll discuss those in just a moment. Yeah, this is the exposure, and it comes from many levels. We're going to see the food industry get exposed. We're going to see the pharmaceutical industry get exposed. We're going to see the agriculture industry get exposed. And what happens with exposure is this. We all of a sudden get a new set of truths or potential truths. We get all of this exposure, and it gets a lot of people excited. It gets a lot of people paying attention again, which is important. We shouldn't just sit there and kind of just, yes, sir, no, sir. We should be paying attention. We should then start asking questions. With all of this exposure, inevitably, it's going to come confusion. So for all of my health leaders out there, my moms, my dads, my healthcare practitioners out there, everyone that's listening to this, know this. There's going to be massive levels of confusion this year. As much as there's exposure, there will be confusion, because what will happen is people say, wait a minute. Well, wait a minute. I thought blankety blank was good for me. I thought fluoride in my water was a good thing. And then all of a sudden you're telling me it's not such a good thing. Then what do I do? And there's the confusion. So it's going to lie in our hands. It is up to us, the individuals, and especially if you're a practitioner, you're going to have to be a little bit more bold. You're going to have to be a little bit more, quite frankly, you're going to have to be more bold. I think that's the way to say it. You're going to have to step up and lead, and you're going to have to make sure that you got your I's dotted, your I's dotted and T's crossed, and understand what we're playing with, because there's going to be a lot of confusion. With that being said, I'm super excited. I think this is going to be the most exciting time ever for a healthcare practitioner, because all the things that we've been saying for maybe the last 10, 20, 30 years, instead of just looking at us as being kind of weirdos and wackos, which is fine, now we're going to go, oh, wait a minute. Some of this stuff you guys have been saying for long periods of time has some roots, it has some truth to it, and the challenge is going to be deciphering what parts of it are true and what parts are not. So today, I'm going to do the best I can. We're going to expose the supplement world to some extent. Listen, there's good, bad, and ugly in everything, and in the supplement world, it is no different. So there's not a blanket statement to say that all food is bad for us, or all supplements are bad, or all food is good for us. No. All doctors are good or all bad. No, it doesn't work that way. We have to have some discretion on an individual level. And that is, I think it should always be up. Buyer beware, the individual, you, me, we have to be the ones, even if we're being led by poor people with poor intended actions, poor intended outcomes for us. Even if we're being led astray, I think it's still up to us. So appreciate that you guys are here today. Appreciate that you guys continue to tune in here to the Health Made Simple podcast. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing out. Keep spreading love. Whatever you're doing, it's working. More and more people are getting to tune in, which is awesome. That means we're able to provide people with more opportunities to just get a little bit deeper with their health and recognize, man, health is simple. I'm going to expose that again today. Health is simple. Complex, yes, but it is simple. We got to move right, got to eat right, got to think right. We get those things dialed in, and you know what? We got our best shot of living the best lives that we have. All right, that we can have. All right, with that being said, let's dive in here. So this is the year of exposure. It's time to critique our own supplements, and then does quality matter? And then how do we know? So when I say exposure, look, we've already seen things. We're second, third week into January right now, and we've already seen that the red dye has been banned all over the place. Folks, we've been talking about red dye for umpteen years, and now all of a sudden it gets exposed, and now it's been banned. Phenomenal. That is literally just one of the dominoes, and they're about to roll. Yet we're going to have to figure out, how do we decipher them? I'm going to do my best I can today to help you understand, when you look at a supplement, is it quality? That's first of all. And then understanding its role in helping you overcome maybe some challenges with your health, and what role does it play in the overall function of the human body. And those are two different things. We need to look at quality and then the roles that vitamins, herbs, and supplements play. All right, so with that being said, let's dive into the conversation first about synthetic versus whole food-based supplements. You may never have heard this conversation, but it's time to hear this. The majority of supplements, let me back up and tell you this. Truth is, my position on supplements goes like this. I have a love-hate relationship with supplements. I love them because I've been able to help literally thousands of people and dogs, and even myself and my wife, to elevate their health, get to another level faster than I would be able than without them. That's the truth. And every single day I continue to do that. So just like our ancestors used vitamins and herbs and whole foods as medicinal components, as to overcome illnesses and ailments, but also just to live the best versions of ourselves every day. So for that reason, I absolutely love supplements, and especially some of the ones, I'll probably mention a couple today. I have some, I don't even know if I call them biases, but I have some of my favorites. On the flip side of that is the fact that there are some awful supplements out there. Supplements that I don't know if I'm going to say go as far as doing harm, like overdosing on like a drug or something like that. Yet there's definitely supplements out there that do no good. And that the harm is that you're spending money. And here's where, to me, the harm happens. You listen to these commercials, you buy into, oh my God, this is gonna fix this, and I just need to take a bunch of these guys, and there's great marketing behind it, and then next thing you know, you try it and it doesn't work. That's where the harm becomes. Yeah, you lose some bucks, but that's not even the big deal. The big deal is then people start to lose faith in what has always worked, meaning that we put real food into the body, we use food as thy medicine, and we're gonna, best we can, use whole food supplements is part of that medicinal effect on the body. And again, nothing I'm saying here today is with the intention to replace your drugs or your medication. It is not that. This is about restoring and enhancing human function. So when if I do talk about things like your kidney or your liver, it's always to support the natural potential of the kidney, potential of the liver, or any other system, organ, or gland that I mentioned. So when we talk about synthetic versus whole food supplements, here's a couple simple ways. If you right now are at home and you have some supplements in your cupboards, go grab them, because this is going to make this kind of fun and easy. There's two things we want to look for when it comes to synthetics. Generally, we do not want to take synthetic supplements. Could you have some components of your supplements have a couple of synthetics in there? Yes. There's some, for example, ascorbic acid. That is vitamin C. Ascorbic acid is a synthetic. Is it bad for you? No. In fact, I could argue that it has some good qualities to it. Does it do all the things that regular whole food vitamin C is going to do? Absolutely not. But let me explain to you, and so you can become educated in how you can identify whole food supplements versus your synthetic ones. Collectively, one of the reasons we do not want to take synthetic supplements is that your body, one, often does not know how to break them down, just like it would a medication. In fact, I would tell you that most, from what I understand, a lot of the synthetic supplements, and when you go into a CVS or a Walgreens or Costco or something like that, you're going to find those supplements. Most of those are made by the major pharmaceutical companies. Anyway, so here's the two ways we're going to look at to determine whether or not they are synthetics. One, you will look at the actual, when they list the ingredient, what they call the assay, you're going to look at where it says vitamin B and vitamin C and vitamin D and all those things. If you see vitamin C, and then right after that, you see the words as, like in parentheses, it'll say as ascorbic acid. Vitamin B2, as, and then it'll say riboflavin, whatever it's going to say. If you see the word as, know that is a synthetic vitamin. That means it does not come from a vegetable, it does not come from a plant, it does not come from an animal part, it doesn't come from anything other than a laboratory. So that's number one. And now some supplement companies have become keen to this and recognize that patients, or you guys, you and I, the consumers, are getting smarter and smarter. So they're kind of hiding this. And what they'll do is they'll just put vitamin C and they'll tell you how much, 100%, 1,000%, 10,000%, which is kind of ridiculous, right? So, because it doesn't ever come that way in nature. In nature, you'll never see 400% of vitamin C in something. It just doesn't work that way. The other way that they hide it is when you go down to the ingredients. This is where the rubber hits the road. So first you're going to look to see if that word as is there. If it is there, you're going to know that is a synthetic part of it. There might be some with as and some not with the word as. When you get down into the ingredients, you're going to look, and you're going to look very specifically for how many vegetables and or animal parts Like for example, it might be something from bovine thyroid or bovine, like liver or something like that. Meaning that, listen, the absolute best source of B vitamins in the world come from liver. And a lot of companies use liver as the source to get their B vitamins in the supplement. Fantastic. So we're going to look in the ingredients and look for the plants and the animal parts in the ingredients. What's kind of interesting, kind of funny at the same time, you're going to go, and a lot of them don't have the ingredients. You're going to say, well, where there are no ingredients here. Precisely. It's because they're all synthetics. The majority, I would say 95% on the market, maybe 99% of the supplements on the market right now are synthetics. And I think that's problematic because that's where the public gets kind of led astray. Often you're not going to see the results with them. You might get a short-term lift if you put, XYZ amount. If you take, say, a multivitamin, or let's just say you take like a B complex and has, 4,000, percent of the daily recommended amount. Usually what'll happen in synthetics, maybe in that first 2 weeks to 30 days, you might get a little bit of a bump, maybe get a little bit of uplift, and you recognize, wow, this kind of does pretty good. Unfortunately, after that, it is not uncommon that you actually become nutrient deficient, of which I'll explain to you just kind of shortly here without going too deep in it. When we think about vitamins specifically, most vitamins are really enzymes. So I'll take, for example, vitamin C. Vitamin C is not just ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is one component of the vitamin C enzyme. There are other things in there. So for example, let's just say, if you're watching this, great, I'm holding my hand up right now and I have 5 fingers up. Ascorbic acid would be the thumb. And then the other 4 fingers are the other components of vitamin C that when you bite into a lemon, you bite into an orange, you have a bunch of different other things that come with that ascorbic acid to make up what we call vitamin C. It might be the rutin factor, it might be bioflavonoids, or maybe several other things. When you just get ascorbic acid, you are missing the other 4, 5, 6 components that made up that enzyme. When you put that much ascorbic acid into your body, 1,000%, in order for it to work, it has to go rally all the other components from your body that were supposed to be there. And now you can start to create deficiencies in vitamin C by taking vitamin C. So I'm not going to deep dive on that, but just recognize that is one of the downsides of taking synthetic vitamins. Now, this is also why when you look at some of the research that some of the, the researchers, the PhDs in the medical community has done over the years, saying that long-term supplementation sometimes ends up in a worse spot, meaning you become more nutrient deficient. They're not wrong, because if you take long-term synthetic vitamins, it is not uncommon that you can actually leach out and take away some of your vitamins and nutrients. So that reason, this is why I have a love-hate relationship. Now, that being said, does that mean collectively we don't take supplements? No. I'm going to actually tell you, just pause on that for a second, because if we take a deep dive and look at the way our agricultural system is working right now, we are running out of nutrients. I could argue, and will continue to argue, that even with a good diet, you're going to end up nutrient deficiency. And here's the challenge. This is the biggest challenge. So this is going to fall on deaf ears unless you are literally thinking, you're health minded and you are thinking about the future as well. If you go out to eat right now and let's just say that you have a burger and you have some food and a salad and everything, and they all came from, not high quality ingredients. They came from traditional farming, mass agriculture, where it's just repetitive over and over, get the same food from the same fields, and we're depleting the soils, and then the soils have less vitamins and minerals, etc. And then by the time they're GMO'd and there's pesticides and herbicides, when you eat that meal when you're out and you go home, you all of a sudden don't have a nutrient deficiency in, say, zinc or some other nutrient, and you don't all of a sudden just get sick. So that is one of the challenges. The correlation to happen, I eat this food and I get sick, doesn't happen. So we have to step back and understand the compounding interest of either gaining nutrients into our body and or losing them. Many of you understand, whether you practice it or not, the compounding interest on money. So if you put a little bit of money away all the time and you let it compound over time, and down the road you have a ton of it. The same thing goes backwards for us. If we spend a little bit of money on our credit card, a little bit over long periods of time. When you got to go pay it back, you owe a ton of it. Folks, our health is almost identical to that, meaning this: if you're giving up a little bit of your health with every meal over the long haul, by the time it actually comes into dis-ease or disharmony, you owe a lot back to your body. Changing your diet overnight is not going to do it. It's not going to be enough. You're going to have to use the measures of time, the measures of consistency, the measures of repaying the debt that you didn't pay prior. And then you have to go fix the potential damages and diseases and disharmonies that took place during all of that time. And I'm talking about things like high blood pressure, and plaque building up in your arteries, and fatty liver disease, and obesity, and metabolic disorder. These are the things that happen as we become nutrient deficient over long periods of time. Remember, folks, it's not one meal. It is the compounding interest. Being like, oh, no big deal. One's not going to hurt me. I agree. One is not going to hurt you. But the one decision that you make day to day, over and over and over again, that's how we get hurt. All right, with that being said, so we just looked at the two things that create synthetic, that kind of inform us that we have synthetic vitamins. And those, we're going to push those aside. We're going to dump those out of our cupboards, and we're going to not even eat them anymore. You're just going to literally throw them away. Instead, you're going to replace those with whole food supplements. Now, with that being said, I probably boiled it down for myself in terms of clinic, where I use 90% from one supplier. And that is a company up in Palmyra, Wisconsin called Standard Process. I'm going to get to the reason and how that, I'll give you a short story of why that happened as well. But nonetheless, there are probably some other good companies. I'm always looking to see who has the best resources out there. And I said resources very specifically instead of saying supplements. The resources are where really, really matters. We have to go back to foundation. So if you're wondering, how do I determine who is the best of the best? They're all claiming it, because right now there is a very consistent theme amongst influencers, amongst all the health guys out there, and I can list off all the names, but you know the ones. All the ones with the top podcasters, all the ones wearing the cool glasses out there, all of that stuff. They're all talking about one common element. And the one common element is it all goes back to the soil. And everybody is singing that song, and every one of them is right. It all goes back to the soil. The incongruency, the challenge is that some of these very same people who are telling you that the quality and the reason we need supplementation is because our soils are depleted. And folks, they are. I'll talk to that in just a moment. They're all singing the same song. It goes back to the soil. Before we diagnose them and give them different hormones, before we diagnose them and give them drugs, before we diagnose them and give them some type of medication, let's take a look at the soil. Let's take a look at what's going into their body. Do they have the foundations to be healthy? And more often than not, the answer is no. The challenge here is this, and this is where it gets a little tricky. This is the exposure that I want to create today. Challenge, a lot of people singing that song, yet when the supplements, the recommendations that they're offering and they're recommending, unfortunately, it's kind of hypocritical, because then they're offering supplements that are not from soil. And when you look into the two things that I just told you, looking for the word as and or looking for the ingredients down below, you find out that, man, their supplements don't have these things either. They're synthetics as well. So they're void of the very foundations what we need. Let's talk foundations real quickly here. If you've listened to my other podcasts, you've heard me talking to other farmers, heard me talking about the quality of nutrients, and whether it be for our vegetables and or our supplements, let's just keep this in mind. The soil provides the minerals. The minerals are then, so the plants eat the soil. Those minerals help the plants make vitamins. The vitamins and minerals in the plants are then eaten by the animals. The animals are then eaten by the humans. That is the chain of command right there. And yes, the humans could eat the plants directly. But without the soil, we do not have the minerals. And the minerals are the foundation for everything. So for example, cows cannot make calcium. They have to come from the soil. And if you would for a moment imagine, or if you've ever seen in your life, the cows out on regular farms where they produce over and over and over again, where they continue to produce, whether it be, soybeans or whatever it may be, you would never see a cow on a dry farm, because it would literally starve to death. It would be in disease in a very short period of time. They need to go where there's grass, or they have to supplement what would come from there. So A good, healthy cow comes from a good, healthy pasture that has good, healthy soil. And that right there, folks, is the heart. That is the foundation behind regenerative farming. That the cow eats the grass and then moves. The grass gets to grow back because the soil isn't depleted. We're in a sticky spot. Right now, they're saying, I think back in 2014, 15, 16, somewhere in that category, they said there was less than 60 seasons left of topsoil in our country, which means the 2 to 3 inches, and that's all we have, which is it's shocking to think of that. There's very, very little topsoil left in our country. That's where your minerals, your vitamins are coming from. And when that's gone, folks, we're in trouble. And that is why when we are looking for food companies, we are looking for companies to find where we get the best cows, where best beef, etc. We are looking for companies, supplement companies, that have the best soil. So when people ask me, why do I use standard process as probably my go-to 90% of the time, maybe even more at times? Because when you go up to Wisconsin and visit their farm in Palmyra, you will discover something that doesn't exist anywhere else in our country. They have topsoils up there that are up to 8 feet deep, which is fascinating. That being said, one of their commitments is to give back to the soil more than they take every year. That's my language. That's what I'm talking about now. One of the reasons this is so important to me now, over the last couple of years, if you've been following me on this podcast, you also know that I too am a part-time farmer now. And this has given me an entirely different perspective on understanding how valuable our soil is. So about 2 years ago, with some help, I planted an orchard. Got about 140, 150 trees out there. And last year, we had our first bloom. Our peach trees bloomed. It was crazy. I've never had a peach tree. So this was fascinating to me. It was like a little kid in a candy store. And all of a sudden, it felt like just one day I go out there and boom, a couple of the peach trees had like 70 or 80 peaches. So I was literally standing there, picking peaches, spitting on them, cleaning them off and eating them. And in that moment, I realized, as some of the peaches were lying on the ground and whatnot, I realized it became crystal clear to me that that soil was feeding those roots that were feeding the peach tree that were giving life to the peach. And in that moment, I realized there is no way in hell I would ever allow someone to put pesticides, herbicides, anything into that soil, because that was going to go directly into my body. And then at one point, maybe even go into our clients' bodies, and as we serve some of those foods down in our cafe. When I look at it that way, I now am looking for other people and other purveyors and other farmers who are masters or who are artists of being great purveyors of the soil, and that because the soil is where the future of our health is going to come from. We can argue all the other different things or debate all the other different things, but it will come back to our soil if we are deficient in our nutrients. To give a simple example, we see an abundance of things like prostate health in our country, big problems with prostate. Folks, the simplest things I could tell you this is that zinc is one of the most important nutrients for prostate health. This is for guys, obviously, and it comes from our soil. If you do not have rich soil, if you're not eating foods that are rich in zinc, which means the foods had to come from soil that was good, you're going to end up with eventually a zinc deficiency, and you'll end up with prostate that is not functioning properly, and then eventually become diseased or disharmonized. And that, my folks, is how it happens. It's a little bit over long periods of time. It's the reverse of compounding interest. It is compounding disease and disharmony within the body. So we have so many deficiencies in the human body right now, in our food supply, that yes, we're going to continue to see more and more challenges with health until we get back to the root cause. The fact that you guys are listening to this and taking a moment here to understand from this point forward, the bigger question for you is you're starting to ask, where does that supplement come from? Where does that food come from? Where does that cow come from? And hopefully this extends not just to your supplements, but into your decisions for when you buy vegetables, when you buy different herbs, when you're buying your beef, when you're buying your chicken. I have chickens now as well, and I tell you what, there's no way in hell I would let anybody put things into the soil, into the earth that they are feeding from. Because remember, the soil, those minerals are feeding the food that they're eating, which is the plants, the veg, the weeds, the worms. Those worms are eating the soil, and then my birds eat those, and then I serve the eggs to myself, my wife, and also all our customers. Is there any way that I would ever allow poisons to be poured into that soil? Hell no. And I think when we give it a moment like that to think about it, we think about what we're putting into our body and understanding the compounding interest. That yes, you're not going to have one bite of something or miss a nutrient any given day, and all of a sudden you're going to feel the dis-ease or disharmony in your body. But the compounding interest of being nutrient deficient, that is why and how we've seen so much dis-ease and disharmony in our country. All right, with that being said, let's wrap this up a little bit. So what do we discover today? We're going to see more exposure. Well, I think we should, this year is coming, we're going to see so many things exposed, which I think is super exciting. I think that the exposure then often is going to bring confusion. Today, hopefully, it'll make it a little clearer. Yes, we got to learn. And yes, we have to continue to pay attention and make sure that even your providers, the people on your team, and who are those? Those are your doctors, those are your health coaches, or your personal trainers, that they too are looking for where the foundations are. And soil, my friends, is the future. For if your products, if your cows are coming from good soils, from good regenerative farms, amen. That's the way that we want to do it. If your supplements are coming from good soils, amen. That's the way that we want to do it. So we're going to look to see if it is synthetic. If it is, we're just going to leave it alone. Even if you have a cupboard full of supplements, and that's how it started with me. I thought supplements were good for everyone. I went out to a supplement seminar, thought it was really good. I bought a whole bunch of supplements for me and for all my clients back in my clinic. Figured, man, everyone needs a little bit. B vitamin, C vitamin, D vitamins. Quite frankly, probably true. And then I didn't even realize that all the ones that I bought, the thousands of dollars that I stocked my shelves with, were all synthetics. Fortunately, someone came along and very kindly exposed that to me. And what did I do? It was literally, what did I do? I bagged them all up and put them in the garbage. Couldn't resell them. I couldn't do it consciously. I could not all of a sudden continue to feed. After I knew that, I could not then sell my people synthetic supplements that I knew had the potential to rob them of more health. So with that being said, got rid of the synthetics. Enter whole food-based supplements. In this, to my last point that I'll make here today, then we'll wrap this up. Do I think that we collectively need supplementation? I absolutely do. I don't think our diets are good enough. I don't think the foods, even when you and I are eating organic, we're buying from our public stores, we're getting our kale, our spinach, our lettuces, whatever it may be, the soils they're coming from aren't good either. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's regenerative farming. That is the future. And the good news is there's amazing people doing it. You have to hunt them down. So with that being said, now you have a little bit of fuel, so you'll have less confusion this year. It's easy to say I'm confused and not to do anything. That's not you. That's why otherwise you wouldn't be here today. So I'm gonna encourage you to make 2025 the best year of your life. Literally thrive. This is when leaders are going to be needed, which means even if you're not a healthcare practitioner listening to this, you're a leader of your own health, your own vitality, and potentially of your families, maybe even some of your friends, etc. So keep doing the thing, folks. Thanks for being here today. I look forward to having you at the next Health Made Simple show, and always continue to take deliberate action for your mind, your body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.